Hello everyone, my name is Toncica and in today's video I will share with you my favorite Easter dessert recipe. It is marbled kuglof. You probably don't know this about me, but I'm a pastry chef and I'm obsessed with baking since I was a little girl. And I'm really excited to share this recipe with you because it was one of the first recipes that I ever made. I will leave all the ingredients in the video description for you. But before we get to baking, I want to share my very important tips on things that you should do before baking. So let's get to that. First and most important thing that you want to do when you're baking, especially when you're making a kuglof, is that you grease your baking tin properly. You can use melted butter, cooking spray, cooking oil, whatever you prefer. I prefer using melted butter. I will cover my baking tin with melted butter first, and then I will dust it with flour to make sure that my cake won't stick for baking tin. And you want to make sure that you pat on your baking tin when you add flour, that you move it around, that you make sure that you cover with flour all the areas that you did with melted butter before. That is going to make it so easy for your cake to simply slide out of the baking tin and prevent it from sticking for your baking tin. Second thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that all of your ingredients from the fridge are at room temperature. A lot of recipes call for a room temperature butter, but if you mix that room temperature butter with eggs and milk from the fridge, your butter is going to harden and your mixture is going to be clumpy and very hard to combine. So you want to make sure that you take out all the ingredients from the fridge a couple of hours before baking so they are all at the room temperature. And third thing that you want to do before baking is you want to make sure that you sift your flour with baking powder before baking. And if recipe calls for cocoa, you want to sift it with flour as well, because that is going to make sure that your mixture doesn't become clumpy and it's going to be very easy to combine all the ingredients together. So make sure that you always sift your flour before baking. Now we can start with the actual recipe. First, we will mix butter for at least 1 minute before adding sugar. Once you add sugar, you want to mix for 5 to 8 minutes if you're using a stand mixer, or 8 to 10 minutes if you're using a hand mixer. It always takes a little bit more time with the hand mixer, but you want to make sure that your butter and sugar are light and fluffy. Once butter and sugar are light and fluffy, we can start adding the eggs, but it's important to add 1 egg at a time. You want to make sure that each egg is mixed in well, because we want to keep that light and fluffy consistency with our mixture. It is important to very often scrub the sides of your bowl when you're mixing, especially before adding a new ingredient, because you want to make sure that every ingredient is well combined in the mixture. And stop as many times as you need, scrape the sides of your bowl, and then mix again, especially like I said before adding a new ingredient. Once your mixture is well combined, you can add flour and milk and mix just enough so that all the ingredients combine together. Then go over with a wooden spoon or a spatula to make sure that all the ingredients are mixed in well. Now you want to divide your mixture in 2 bowls. We are going to keep 1/2 dark and 1/2 light. For that, we're going to use 2 tablespoons of sifted cocoa powder and hot water. I started with 2.5 spoons of hot water, but that was not enough, so I added more until I was happy with consistency. You want to keep your cocoa mixture not too liquidy, still not too thick. When you're happy with the consistency of your cocoa mixture, you're going to add it to 1/2 of kuglof mixture and mix in until it's well combined. Now it is time to make our kuglof. I always start with a light mixture, then I go with a dark, then with light, then with dark, until I'm out of both. Once I'm out of both, you can use a toothpick, a knife, or a fork, whatever you have on hand, to mix in both colors to get that marbled effect. And you want to bake your kuglof at preheated oven at 180 Celsius degrees for 45 to 60 minutes. But after 25 minutes of baking, you want to cover the top of your kuglof with aluminum foil to prevent it from burning. If you don't do that, top of your kuglof will burn and the rest of it won't be cooked yet. So you want to do that to prevent the top of your kuglof from burning, and bake it for another 20 minutes with aluminum foil on. After 20 minutes, check with a toothpick if your kuglof is ready. Once your kuglof is baked, you want to leave it in a baking tin for another 8 to 10 minutes to cool down a little bit. And after that, you want to flip it on a serving plate and leave it like that to completely cool down. Once your kuglof is completely cooled down, you can decorate it however you want to. I always like to keep it simple, especially when I'm making marbled kuglof and I dust it with a powdered sugar, but you can decorate it with white chocolate, dark chocolate, whatever you want. You can be so creative. This recipe is such a classic. You can keep your mixture completely light to have a light kuglof, or add cocoa to the whole mixture and have a dark kuglof. If you're doing that, you always need to double the cocoa, so you won't use 2 tablespoons of cocoa, you will use 4 tablespoons of cocoa, so that it's enough for the whole mixture. And you can always make this recipe your own. It is such a classic and fancy dessert. I love it so much. That is all for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Of course, share this video with your friends. And if you make this kuglof, make sure to tag me on Instagram. I'll leave my handle here so that I can share your kuglofs as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! This is amazing.